Welcome to the Beyond Membership podcast, where we are uncovering what drives associations forward and how the suite of Momentive Software products accelerates that momentum. Well, hey, Rob.
Hey, Jake. I understand this is a big week for you at Momentive.
Yeah, it absolutely is. This is my 10-year anniversary.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome. I can remember joining Nimble AMS 10 years ago. It was in Penfield, New York, and Fairport, I suppose. Small towns, canals towns in New York, and it was quite the experience. I had been working for another company for a few years, and it was time to move on to something a little bit more interesting, which Nimble AMS turned out to be extremely interesting. And when I joined, we had about 10 customers, and just got thrown right into the gauntlet right away. And I remember meeting some really, really, really bright people that I still work with today, who I picked up a lot of interesting skills from. And we took that 10 customers, and now we have many, many more, and have gone through acquisitions and have, met tons of amazing people, amazing professionals. Had the opportunity now to take my career from being an individual contributor to a manager, and it's been a wild ride, but I'm still looking forward to more and more as we continue to grow.
I'm curious, when you first started, were you a Salesforce expert already, or was that something you learned once you got here?
This is a funny story that I tell people all the time, is I had no idea that Salesforce even had a development platform when I started at Nimble AMS. I can remember showing up the first day, and it was like, okay, so we're built on the Salesforce platform. And I'm like, Salesforce platform? What the heck is that? I thought Salesforce was just a tool for salespeople. And turns out Salesforce has an incredibly deep and rich setup for supporting applications being built on it. So because of that, I got a chance to learn about a bunch of different technologies, and Salesforce actually has an incredibly robust, I'll say, suite of tools for developing applications. And I've seen us use it in many, many ways that kind of blew my mind. And it continues to grow every year, every release. You see more and more coming out. And, being a developer on the Salesforce platform it's different from traditional software development, but it's also, very similar in a lot of ways too. So it's been awesome.
I remember in some of those early years, of course, at that time we were competitors, and you folks used to show up at trade shows with a little Airstream trailer with Nimble written all over it, and which I thought was incredibly crafty and creative. And I was like, who are these startup guys? And that must have been some fun times.
It was. We were very scrappy back then. Still probably are, but we were very scrappy back then in terms of just taking what we had and doing something interesting with it. And certainly we benefit a lot from the Salesforce platform, obviously, but it's the people and the connections, and that's really what powered us back then and even today, of those relationships and the shared trust. And still work with many of those people today, and it's awesome.
Well, and I have to say, I'm sure glad we're on the same team now, because obviously it's been great locking arms with you. And obviously you talked about us being scrappy, and clearly we've grown a lot since then. I think we have just short of 1,500 staff now, and we have a number of those people in India, and I understand you just made a trip down there to see all of them.
Yeah, I did. I just got back about a week ago, and I was there for 2 whole weeks. It was incredible. I'm actually putting together a little video about my time there and all the things that I did and saw. But it's truly such a blessing to be able to do that, and I definitely take a second to thank Momentive Software for sending me there. It's my second time. I went 7 years ago as well. And I reunited with old friends, got a chance to interact with people who I've given opportunities to through my role in management. And it was incredibly rewarding to do that. And also seeing a bit of the country. It's a beautiful, beautiful country with very wonderfully welcoming people. And it's a real pleasure to visit there. And I know you've been there as well.
Yeah, between your 2 visits, I was there twice myself. I went in back-to-back years. If you remember, of course you remember, but maybe some of the listeners don't, is I had the pleasure of being Nimble's general manager for a few years before, of course, my role switched. And during that time, I traveled there because, part of the team was there that you were obviously visiting, but, we had team members there that were supporting other products. But the first time I only went just straight to the office that week. And then the second time I went, I actually spent a week in advance, took my wife, and we traveled actually around a fair amount of the country. It's, beautiful, beautiful and wonderful people. And so like you, I feel blessed that we've had that opportunity. And I just think I'm actually proud of Momentive in the commitment they make to their offshore operations, that critical members of the team get on an airplane and go visit. And, in that vein, what do you feel makes that kind of offshoring work well? What's kind of the critical elements?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really interesting question. I've talked about this a lot for many years with like several coworkers because I think I was maybe one of the first people that had the opportunity to go and ended up meeting a lot of other leaders across different products at Momentive. And a lot of people were starting up their connection with a team there. So when I originally went, I think I trained about 9 people total. And I was training them about Nimble AMS. And, the idea for us was that they would become a team that could work with us at Nimble as just another set of the team. And a lot of things that I learned in that process, definitely I learned that you have to be accommodating. So one thing that many people don't think about is when you work with someone who's across the world, they obviously have a different time zone than you. And a big thing that you might not understand is that they actually work different hours than you as well. So in India, it's common for the day to start around 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. and end around 6 or 7 p.m. And when you get there and you live through that, you kind of see how impactful it is. Obviously, we work about 8-hour days across this industry, and in many industries, software can be a little different where it's like you have deliverables, and so you're getting to the deliverables, maybe not working the direct hours. But our team in India, like they have a very different time scale. And so I find that one of the big things that you can do is be very accommodating to that. So what I like to do is I actually just turned it off, but I have like a clock on my screen. And it has the Eastern time and it has the IST time as a reminder to everybody. Oftentimes, I'll be talking to someone, I'll look up and it'll be midnight or it'll be 1 a.m. and I'm just like, no. Go be with your family, go to bed, do what you need to do at this point, and let's talk tomorrow. And I think people really get a lot out of that, people that are working in that time zone. The other thing is really connecting with people and learning about them and who they are and like what motivates them outside of work and what they like. I took a big opportunity this time to do that. We actually played cricket one day. I went out and watched the India-Pakistan, which is a massive rivalry for India. I watched that match with, several of my employees. And I think, that sort of connection and shared experience, it builds trust. You see personalities come out that don't come out on the Zoom call or the Teams call. Right, and you really learn something about other people, and they can then learn about you as well. And those interpersonal connections, I think, are probably the biggest thing to pursue when you're working with an offshore team. Other things are just like general things that you would want to do for your team anyway. Spending time on training, spending time giving people career pathing, being willing to let people go, let people make it to the next level. Oftentimes you'll get that person who comes in, we call them freshers. And freshers are like fresh out of college, or university as they call it. And they will be extremely dedicated and extremely focused on those first 2 years. And then they might want to leave, or they may want to pursue another opportunity. And you got to make sure you give them that chance, even though you got to start fresh with a new fresher. You will get paid back so much by doing that as a leader when you appreciate people and give them that path. And there's so many more things I could say about like how to do it well, but I've actually had a lot of success with this. I have, again, like I've had team members that have been here for the 7 years between my visits, and other team members that I saw there that I gave them the opportunity to move to another product or get a promotion, and they were so excited to see me, and I was so excited to see them and to connect with them and to tell them how good of a job they did and how excited I was for their career. And I think that makes a big impact.
One of the things that's always stuck with me when I visited them is how incredibly well educated their team is. When you talk about, you ask them about their backgrounds, all of them have master's degrees. A lot of them have their undergraduate degrees in computer science. Many of them have multiple masters, usually, oftentimes maybe one of them in the United States. In fact, I have a funny story. When I was doing my own master's, that I had decided to really start focusing on software and technology, and that was a change for me at the time, and I was struggling, and I befriended a guy who was Indian, and I just decided I was going to pick what appeared to be the smartest person in the class and try and get as close to him as I could. And of course, what he wanted is he wanted to build relationships with people in the U.S. And so we basically were each other's conduit to success. He dragged me across the finish line and made sure I passed all my classes. And of course, I made sure that he had a good social life. And so it was a win for both sides. But I mean, my experience being with those people when when I was with my 2 trips is that they, as you said, extremely committed, very smart, very family oriented. I mean, they really work together as a family and as a team. And unlike most of us here in the U.S., they're mostly all going to the office, and so it's a really nice throwback to feel the energy that you can get from a real pulsating office where there's lots of activities going on. Both trips I came away very motivated, and because of just the energy that came out of that. One of the things that I'm curious about, Jake, for our listeners is that we are a company that has an offshore operation. What would you say to someone who says, well, I'm a little worried that you have this team offshore? How do I know that our stuff will be handled carefully and done accurately and that type of thing?
I would say you're getting a team that can actually now work almost 24/7. And the reason for that is because you can take advantage of like the time zone things that I was referencing before. Every morning I talk to people, it's the end of their day. And about the time I'm ready to go to bed, I haven't worked for a while, they're starting their day, right? And so that is a continuous thing that just we can chug along and get through a lot more in that same time frame. And I think a lot of that comes from a misunderstanding of the level that you're dealing with there, right? And so, like you were saying before, you have incredibly competent individuals there who are great contributors. They can do all the things. Probably, we have an individual there who is our lead architect for Nimble AMS. He's fantastic. He's a really, really intelligent person. He has got incredible skills in breaking a problem down and simplifying it and helping to explain it to other developers. You almost develop your own language with them, right? Like you develop obviously I speak English. I only speak English. When I talk to folks in India, they're speaking like their 5th language to me. They can speak tons of language. There's many languages spoken in India, not just Hindi. So where we go is Pune, which is in the I'm going to pronounce this horribly, but Maharashtra, and they have a different language they speak there. It's not Hindi. It's completely different. But they all know it, right? They all can speak it, and they can then speak English. One thing that's challenging over the phone, obviously, is kind of breaking through that barrier because it's not their first language. But being in person really solves that problem because of the body language and the connection there. So some of that is, I think, it's a challenge, but it's also there's a benefit, right? I would say too that the practices of the software development process, even for implementations and for product development where I'm mostly focused, it's a universal set of nomenclature, and everybody kind of understands it and the steps that go into it and the things that are involved. So you have just more resources and you have more output and you aren't suffering for quality. It's not something to be scared of, it's something to be excited about and to benefit from. I mean, there's a real partnership there. It's not a one-way street.
Yeah, in fact, I think when we really figured it out a few years ago, it was at the point with which we stopped treating them as a separate team and almost like a, offshore. We just
Right.
started treating them as our staff, our team. And, there may be people here that report to people that are there. Just as you said, we have a tech lead there who's leading a group of people, and that person is responsible to deliver. And so we are infusing him with the authority and asking him or her to take on the accountability. And through that, that team has now made us more efficient because you said we're working 24/7. Also, I'm a strong believer when you have different groups of people working together, you get the most creative solutions. I mean, you and I are two white guys. We have to have more opinions and more creativity than that. And so I just feel like they add such a dimension to our group. I'm thinking about our customers. They should be pleased that we have this team for all the benefits that you've suggested.
From a management perspective, right? When you were the GM of Nimble AMS, did you have any apprehensions when you first started interacting, and did any of that change for you when you visited India?
Well, first of all, I actually have traveled quite a bit in my life, and my wife has done a ton of travel because she worked in the federal government where that was something that was very regular for overseas. So I think in some ways I maybe was a little more comfortable than maybe some managers might have been. But certainly I was worried about the time change because, we needed to make sure the people here, I was actually more worried about our team here equipping them with success than I really was with them being willing to work hard enough and be available enough. And so part of it was getting people to think, as you said, about the time zones and making themselves available sometimes earlier in the morning or later in the day so we could get overlap. Because I think that the regular interaction was critical. And I made that commitment myself. So there is obviously some senior execs who are there. And so I set a weekly meeting with two of these people so that I could stay very close to all the things they were thinking about, including recruiting and stuff that I wanted to make myself a part of, as opposed to just throwing work over the transom and hoping it came back successfully. So once I fully committed that we were going to work with them as if they were anybody else in our team, and then I started to see the rest of our team doing it, then I really felt like we really took flight and started to really have success.
I think you had said this a little bit earlier of not thinking of it as an offshore team, right? And thinking of just another team, another place where people are that help and that contribute. And definitely over the last year, I have tried to underline that as much as possible. I've changed a lot of the structures on Nimble AMS teams to have blended teams. So I actually don't have any teams where everybody's in the US or any teams where everybody's in India. So the idea is to try and blend them more and to turn those things that people would think are barriers into opportunities. I mean, we've spoken about the time zone, we've spoken about the language barrier. Definitely there's a cultural barrier too. People value different things, and that's something that's very apparent when you go to India. I think you mentioned this earlier too, of that like they're very much family oriented in India. That's very true. Very much a stark contrast to the United States. I don't know if there's a such thing even as a nursing home in India. I think everybody just takes care of their parents, which is
really
a beautiful
cool
thing to see. Yeah,
Yep.
it's truly beautiful to see, and you see that in their culture all over the place, of that kind of care and that taking care of and keeping that family unit together, brothers, sisters, cousins. There's just a massive connection. This last time I was there, I was meeting with somebody. It was his last day in the office. Not everybody lives real close by the office, so they can't come every day. And so he flew down while I was there for a few days, and it was the last day, and he had said, "Hey, Jake, I'm going to leave." It was a couple hours before close. "Hey, I'm going to leave, and I have some cousins here in Pune, and before I fly home, I want to visit them." I was like, "Absolutely. Go see your cousins. Get out of here. And I love that. I love that opportunity, and I love seeing that from folks, that dedication to family.
Well, I'm certain when you went and visited there, when you first arrived, that you were welcomed in a way that was somewhat astonishing. I couldn't believe the way they treated us, and they had special events for us while we were there. They even, both times I was there, they brought in, they do charitable events. And both times I was there, they brought in the charity, members of the charity that they were supporting. One was one with children, one was folks who had an unfortunate disease, and they had a whole event for these people, and they were celebrating them, celebrating our company, supporting them, and certainly celebrating us visiting. You come away from there with your heart full and very motivated. And that's why I think having them as part of our team is so valuable. And I really wish every Momentive staff member could make a trip. And I know that's not possible, but it brings, a great deal of solidarity that you feel when you're with them, because they bring you in with such open arms. It's really great. When you're thinking about this team, is there additional things that you're hoping to do with the Momentive company in terms of just making our ability to work with our offshore teams, and not just India, because we have a number of teams in different places? Are there other things that come to mind to you that you hope to do that will make us even more productive?
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about us visiting them. I would love to bring them to us and to show them my home, and where I live, and the culture and the interesting things, to see. And I think that they would really treasure that experience as well. So that's something I am definitely hoping to do at some point. I'd love to send, you mentioned this as well, I'd love to send more of my team. I've had the opportunity twice now, which I feel incredibly humbled and blessed and motivated, like you mentioned. But I'd love to send my team. I think it's an incredible opportunity and benefit for any employee to be able to do something like that. So those are some things in terms of around visiting. Training, certainly, like more opportunities to train and help people gather skills that help them in their careers. That's truly valued. I think one thing we're doing right now is we're really focusing on QA automation. So with quality assurance, you can do it manually, but you want to do it with automation so that you can repeat it at a cheaper price going forward. That is something where we're not only offering, but providing the time for people to do the training and to get through it and to add that skill. And to not only does that benefit us as a company to leverage our resources to be able to create automations and then get that compounding effect later, it's also a massive career benefit. Someone who has the opportunity on the job to go from a manual QA to an automated QA, that could change their career and ultimately their life if they do that. And so that's definitely something that I would like to continue to do for everyone. And anything that I can do to keep people around longer, I feel very, very blessed to be able to have a 10-year career here at Momentive. And there's a few other people I know at the moment who are crossing similar milestones in their career at Momentive, and many of them are in India. And I hope to continue to see my employees in India to do that. I'm really hoping for that, and all signs are pointing to that will happen, because I see a lot of people who are highly engaged, enjoying their role, and curious to continue to grow and do more. So that's very exciting.
Longevity with staff, as we know, is an awesome thing, because you just learn so much year over year that it compounds and it makes the person even more valuable. For me, one of the things that I hope we can do more of is that we're starting to do more work in places like Australia and the UK and other parts around the world. And you were talking early about their ability to interact with other languages and other cultures. And so I want to get them involved in the process of helping us enter and improve in those spaces, even from a sales and marketing perspective, because I think that they have things to teach us there. They might have some sensitivities to cultures that we don't have as good as sensitivities to. And in fact, there is one particular opportunity we have right now that actually is in India. And so we got some of our team members there involved. It was like a first opportunity for them to be in a sales call, and they were just over the moon. And so those are the kind of things that I want to keep doing so we can fully take advantage of all their skills.
Yeah. What did you do for fun last time you went? Just out of curiosity.
Well, there's a place called there's a kind of the Golden Triangle where you go from Delhi to, the Taj Mahal, and then to Agra, and then of course back to Pune ultimately. So we went to a lot of their major monuments and that type of thing, and so it was really special. And the Taj Mahal is as impressive in person as we've always seen pictures of it. So, and our guide was smart enough to get us there like literally right at sunup. And so we were really the first ones in there. And so we have some pictures of ourselves where it's just us in the building, basically, which I think it's unheard of to get those. We didn't have people behind us in the pictures, and so real exciting. And all the way along, we met wonderful people, and they were just so happy to hear that where we'd traveled from, and they were very happy to hear that we were enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, I can't even count the amount of times that someone said, "How are you liking India? What have you done? What have you seen?" I unfortunately didn't get to see as much as you. That sounds pretty awesome. I'd love to see the Taj Mahal maybe next time. But saw there's a place in Pune actually called the Aga Khan Palace, and that's where Gandhi was imprisoned. And there's a whole kind of museum and tour there where you can see some of his belongings, and you read about his life and the dedication he had to the Quit India movement, and the story about how India achieved independence from Britain is incredible, right? That was obviously there was violence, but they achieved it in a non-violent way, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you one other question. Oh, did you cross the road?
Oh. I was always so shocked that when we would come out of like the hotel with the person who picked us up, and then they would have to pull out in the traffic, and you would just think you're going to die. And then somehow the traffic just allows you to merge in with it. It's like 10 lanes of traffic squeezed into what should be a 5 or 6 lane road. Somehow it works. If you dumped one of us driving in that, we wouldn't survive. But because they're all used to it, it just somehow works.
Definitely. The first visit, I rode on the back of someone's motorcycle through some heavy traffic, and that was quite an experience. This visit, actually, I walked to work every morning.
Nice.
And so I crossed the road a lot. And by the end, I was indifferent to it, which is funny. It was like the first day, it was like, wow, this is a lot. But by the end, it was like, yeah, the car's coming, but they'll stop. It's okay. You have your near misses, but like you said, somehow it just all kind of works out. Certainly, the merges are crazy when there's a lot of traffic.
There's so many traffic merging into so much traffic. But again, they give way, little honks. Everybody has in fact, on the back of the trucks, there's even signs that say, please honk, because they want to know someone's behind them, which is so odd. It's just something that's so different than here. But
the last thing I'll say about the traffic is that the lines don't matter and the lights don't matter. And try to make sense of that. I don't know. They literally do not matter.
Well, certainly the lines, without a doubt. I think I occasionally saw some stop for lights.
Yeah, after a few seconds of red, they stop. Did you try any food on the street? That's another question.
Not on the street, but I did, not that I recall, but we did eat in a lot of different, levels of restaurants, some really fancy ones to like really just run of the mill. And in fact, we went to some shops that were literally in people's living rooms where they were just making things with their hands. So I think we saw it all. I just don't think we actually ate any street food.
Yeah, I didn't either, which mostly because I might die if I do. But definitely was much more adventurous the second time in terms of trying different foods at different places to eat that weren't the hotel. But there's one delicious treat in Pune, and it's called pani puri. And it's basically like a deep fried dough ball. It's very thin, like a wafer almost, and it has a hole in the top. And then they give you like a mixture that they make. It's got sweet and savory and sour tastes in it all at the same time, and you just fill it up and shove the whole thing in your mouth and eat it. It's delicious. It's very, very good. And I had it very frequently at the hotel because there's water in it, but very, very frequently.
Well, my favorite cuisine is Indian, so everywhere we went, I was just ready to try everything.
Definitely towards the end, getting a little bit tired of eating with my hands. It's something that you do a lot in India, but you don't do so much in the U.S. You have to find ways to use the bread as your utensil, and just about everything comes with bread. So it's one of those things. Definitely, when in Rome, you do it. It got a little old for me towards the end, but it's a good time.
Yeah, certainly after 2 weeks, I was ready for a different type of food. I pretty much went the whole time, was happy about it, mainly not until really the last day or two. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for something just more typical for what we eat, but it was all really good.
Yeah. Now, Rob, do you like beer?
I do.
Did you try Kingfisher while you were there?
I certainly did. From what I understand, and it seemed to me a little bit, is that not surprisingly, it tastes a little different there than it does what we get sent to us.
Yeah. I mean, I quite enjoyed Kingfisher. I thought it was a very good brand.
They had a low-end rum that they gave me that they thought was quite funny, and I don't remember what it was called, but they thought it was funny that I was willing to drink it, so it must have been considered their swill of some kind.
Well, Rob, thanks for the discussion, and that's been the Beyond Membership Podcast.